tonight I engage in a very inspiring conversation with Dean Furness, who is a data and analytics professional who was left paraplegic in 2011 after an accident. But today, he competes as a wheelchair athlete in marathons. Now, that's a motivating conversation that I'm really looking forward to. Stay tuned in. Life is not as always we planned. One day you'll get up and life will throw off your balance, and it's up to you in those moments. Whether you emotionally react to it or whether you actually consciously choose to step back and respond to it. And why am I talking about it? Is because the guest that we have tonight is the living and breathing manifestation of the term reset. A very warm welcome to everyone who's joining in the 11th episode of Step Up with Natasha. And ladies and gentlemen, I give you Mr. Dean Furness.
Hey there. Hi,
Hey,
everybody.
thank you so much, Dean, for being a part of this conversation. And to be honest, I'm really looking forward to people actually taking that inspiration from you to turn their hardships into strengths and do something about it. So
No,
really, really thank you so much.
I appreciate it as well. It'll be fun. I think, uh, as you and I spoke last week, I'm excited. So it'll be a good conversation, I hope. Thank you.
Yes, 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 it will be. So, Dean, I actually want to start from the start, like when your new life actually started. So, because I've been through your content and I've seen your interviews and stuff. So, when the accident happened, you were there, stuck there for 45 minutes, and that's a hell lot of time, right?
Yeah.
And I'm sure that besides the excruciating physical pain that you were in, I'm sure there was a lot of mental narrative also going on in your mind.
hmm
What I want to know is that did that long time actually prep you up for what's about to come? Like, what is the dialogue that you were having with yourself at that point of time?
You know, it was interesting in that um, it was a long time, but yet I was so close to the house at the same time. So we have 10 acres of land. It's pasture. We have horses. There's no we don't farm per se. We don't grow crops. But I was maybe 100 meters from the house. It was that close, and so there's a lot of honestly anguish up front. Is like I'm so close. Why can't people find me? Why can't they see that I need help? Why can't they come out? Um, but yet there was nothing I could do about it. I mean, even yelling and trying to get that help, there was just not a lot to do. And when I actually found myself almost getting a little analytical about it, honestly, I knew that on that evening, I knew that there would be people coming to pick up my daughter at a certain time to go to a religion class. And I knew when I had gotten on the tractor, and I knew that time was about to come. And so I actually tried to listen for them to arrive because they also were going to be that close. And I heard them arrive. I heard my daughter get in the car and they took off, and I still couldn't get their attention. And so after a while, I mean, there's people home. I mean, it wasn't that I was alone. They just didn't know where I was at. And I knew after a while they would come check on me. The real challenge, I think, mentally, there was some fear because I really didn't know how bad I had been hurt. I knew I couldn't feel my legs, and I could only guess that I had been paralyzed. But I didn't know if I had any internal organ damage or any of that stuff. And it was around 5 or 6 p.m. in the winter, so the sun had gone down, the stars were coming out. And you have a lot of time to talk to yourself and to look up and talk and ask for help. And it was interesting to say the least.
How did you come to terms with the sudden U-turn? Like you said that we all have plans, but suddenly whole of your life was just reset, right?
Yeah.
So how did you come to terms? One is that I accept whatever happened, and a lot of people just accept it and don't do anything about it. But
Mhm.
you, on the other hand, coming to terms with it and then understanding your own self and exploring the other facets and put
Mhm.
yourself on a purpose right now that you are on, right? So how did you, like, what was the process? What was the time period like?
I, you know, I I'm going to be hesitant I mean, process this how we have to think about it. There's certainly a timeline and things happened, but it was very, I can't say natural, but there was very much um, a feeling, a decision, we made our mind up very quickly. There was no other choice. You know, am a parent of three daughters at the time. My eldest daughter was nearing the end of her high school career, so 16, 17 years old. My youngest was, you know, in elementary school. People count on you, and my family was counting on me. My community supported me immensely, and there are things that I feel that I owed them. And so we just made a decision that there wasn't a different choice. It was going to be one that we were going to move forward. Now, do you make a conscious decision, just say, all right, great, let's just go ahead and start doing things differently? You know, there was 4 weeks in the local hospital. There was another 6 weeks at a hospital that was in Denver, Colorado. So I'm in the Des Moines, Iowa, in Middle America, the central part of the United States. That initial 4 weeks was really I'll say an opportunity for us to show how much we could fight and battle. My wife fought to get me transferred. She battled with insurance companies. She did everything she could do to get me the attention I needed to move to the correct hospital. And once I was in that other hospital, it's not that I wasn't getting good care, but you don't, if you have a really bad illness, you go to the specialist, right? And so I got to the specialist, and at that point in time, things really started to change. They made it really clear through their actions and through the things they put me through and the people around me through, that their job was to get me back to living, not to heal me. And there's two different things, right? So my spinal cord was severed. Healing my spinal cord was going to take you know, a miracle or something, right? It wasn't going to happen, right? The odds of me walking ever again are basically zero. And so coming to terms with that is one thing, but then what you do with it and take advantage of the opportunities in front of you is something else. And I think at the hospital, they really forced us into that. So it was a 4 week, then a 6 week period. And then finally the last piece is, okay, they essentially send you home. Okay, you are ready to live in your new normal. Then things really started to slow down. It was a matter of a couple of years before you really start to figure out what life is going to be like when you're not in the hospital. You're back at your home. You're back to trying to have a career and be a parent. And that transition and through that whole process is one that requires a lot of support, a lot of determination, a lot of small wins instead of aiming for big things. So every day trying to get a little bit better. But it's certainly not easy. And I'm even today still trying to figure that out, right? There's still things to work on.
Right. So no, why I asked was that you know, for certain people, and I can say that for myself as well. For certain people, they want. I mean, someone said something or something happened which clicked, which sort of took them out of the trap that they were in,
Mm-hmm.
so they can snap out of it. Was it something like that, or was it like a everyday gradual subtle changes, you know, maybe that, you know, I did this mindfulness practice, or maybe, you know, I started listening to this guy, or I started watching this
Mm-hmm.
person, or, you know, every day I told myself that, you know, I would take out time and I would reflect back and I would try to connect the dots. Was it something like that, or was it that you just you know,
Yeah.
one find it just happened?
You know, it was the fact that I had a teammate with my wife every day, being very repetitive about just recognizing things in me that she she told me I needed to change. So it's very easy to think how depression could set in, right? It's very easy to see how that can happen. And we had a very short moment in the hospital very, very early where we had a few tears. And from that point forward, whenever she recognized me getting down, and she would notice that I would start to sit and look down, and she just kept saying, "Get your eyes up, get your eyes up," and she kept telling me, "Get your chin up. We're moving forward. We're not going to fall back onto those things." And it was multiple times a day, very, very much early in the scenario, and that kind of is how we live today. I mean, it's been 8.5 years, and even last week, if work has been a struggle, she'll basically yell at me, say, "Snap out of it," and basically telling me you're better than that. And so, there's following the TED Talk, somebody had a comment that are saying it'd be really interesting to hear her TED Talk version of the story, right? And she said, "No, I'm not getting on stage. She won't ever do that." But I too would like to hear that story a little bit from her point of view as to how some of that works. But it wasn't a moment. It wasn't a pep talk. It wasn't those things. I mean, all of that happened. People were sending me links and I had videos and inspirational things and so on. But it really just came down to my wife being very attentive and knowing who I was and knowing that I'm a competitor by nature. And when she saw me pulling back, she told me, "Snap out of it. Let's get going." And a big part of it goes to her.
Right, and you raised a very good point, because in fact I was coming at it that a lot of times people think that someone has overcome something, so they are like now perpetually motivated, and we know that that doesn't happen like that, right? We all
Right.
have our dark nights, no matter how tough a facade we try to put up, and we that's also the way we want to feel inside. But I'm sure that we all have dark nights, and I'm sure that you would have your moments now. So now, what do you tell yourself in those moments? How do you like pick yourself back again and go for it?
It's more difficult with the pandemic as well, right? I've been very much stuck, I think, for the last few weeks, couple of months, like many people around the world. And it's not so much that I don't know what to do, but it's been hard to keep the energy level going. And I think that's the main thing is, we're all going to have a bad day. And I think that the more that I just let that happen and not fight it and just understand it's okay if it's a down day, and that's fine, so be it, right? And I think if I were to focus on all of those things that weren't going well, it would really drain me even further. And instead of trying to fight it and beat it and win at that, I think if I put on some different music, I change my environment, I go to a different room, I try some new food, I'm finding a way to get through those things and really just get out of the monotony. And that's really what it is. Here in the States, most of us are working from home. I'm sure around the world, many people are doing that as well. A friend of mine, just said, we aren't working from home, we're living at work now. And you think about that, it really is kind of a dramatic shift in thinking. Is that it's very hard to stop working when you are working from home, and you have to push away. And so those bad days, it's a challenge. It's been a challenge to continue trying to stay fit. It's been a challenge trying to just simply have a smile some days, and find those small wins. But you have to stay consistent. You have to keep trying. And it takes reaching out to friends, and figuring that out.
So what I hear is that you always make a conscious decision to choose something that serves you and not engage in a dialogue that just drains your energy and doesn't lead anywhere, right?
Right. In fact, even if it gets in that way, and it's not because of the situation I'm in or whatever, but we've all been in those situations and conversations where it's draining.
Yeah.
When you feel the energy being pulled out of things, you have to find a way to stop it. And a lot of times it takes a collective group to come together to recognize that.
Right.
And sometimes it's not comfortable to address it, but if you don't, it just keeps building, and you end up with, I think, a lot more harmful situation.
Right. And I think, like you rightly said, and what I've heard in your entire conversation, I think your family is a very big support system. And I think somewhere it also helps you to fight that, uh, you know, it's like you don't let that dialogue enter in your brain, because you know that you're accountable to these many people, like you said. And I think
There's
that is a big enhancer.
there's always somebody counting on you,
Yes.
always,
Yes.
and no matter what it is. And we have an opportunity to work with young people here locally as well. And it's one thing to be in athletics and coaching them, and it's something else to help them translate what they're learning into what life is going to bring them. And that's one of the things that comes up, is that you can't take a day off when you've got a 5-year-old that's waiting for dinner. You can't. They are counting on you, and you have to get used to that now. So.
Right. Right. In one of your interviews, I saw that you had this signboard which says "Stronger than yesterday."
Yeah.
Yes. And I'm sure that even because, like you said, that your daughters were really small that time. Like even the eldest was, I guess, 17 or 18 years old, right? The youngest was too young. So now I'm sure that they have toughened up. But back then, in the past, what I want to know is that when did it overwhelm them in terms of coming to you with the problem? Because they might think that the intensity of our problem is nothing in terms of what you went through. Did that sort of overwhelm them, that should I even take this problem to him, because what he has gone through, it's
Yeah.
maybe comparatively nothing in front. And I know that we all have our own suffering, but when when your family like that, how did they respond to it?
I found out now, in today's world, it's no big deal. In fact, I get frustrated if they don't, because I mean, let's work on things together. Um, I think that they have learned a level of independence through all of it, and that by nature keeps them from coming to ask questions and such, and that's okay, right? I think that's growth. But I found out after the fact that while things were going on, they had made some assumptions about how things were going. How expensive was it to get my treatment and my medical care? Do we have bills that are stacking up, and medical expenses and so on? And I found later on that my eldest daughter had stopped taking her vocal lessons because she thought that we didn't have the money to pay for that because I was in the hospital. And I wish she would have asked, because everything was fine. It wasn't an issue. But there are things like that I think they decided to withdraw from a little bit, out of an assumption that they kind of needed to, and maybe they felt that the energy needed to be placed somewhere else. We've always been a work hard, play hard family. I certainly have not raised perfect children. I'm nowhere near a perfect parent. I think, like many parents, your kids make you think twice about what decision did you just make, and how could you possibly make that? And we never coached you to do that. There's no perfect way to get into that, but they have some resiliency. They know, if anything, maybe not so much related to the question that you asked, but they know that they have to fight, and they know there isn't a lot of, what would you say, sympathy, perhaps. If there is something going on, we'll tend to say, you need to fight harder, dig in. It's sometimes there's a hug, sometimes it's a get back to it.
Do you think that when someone overcomes a pain, and the ability to go through that pain sort of makes one, I'm sure it toughens you up, but it also makes you a bit, I don't know what would be the right word, uh, indifferent, because definitely not insensitive. Well, okay, I'll tell you my example. If I had a flaw or a weakness which I had major problems in, and I know by my sheer consistency and strength, I overcame it. And when other people around me are just cribbing about ridiculously minuscule things, and I'll be like, just don't be a crybaby, deal with it. Does that happen to you as well? Because I know somewhere I feel that it's bad, because they might not have seen what, you have seen, or I have seen, or anyone else. But somewhere it just strikes me that, just don't be a crybaby, just like deal with it. Don't do that. How
Well,
do you
some
respond?
days, yeah, some days, I find when I react that way, it's because there are other things in my life that perhaps are frustrating. Like if I have a long day at work and then I see my daughter doing what you just said, I'm just like, oh my gosh, I don't want to deal with this right now. Why can't you just get through it, right? Don't be a crybaby, right? But I think, because what I'm in is so visible, and you can't see on the camera, but I'm sitting in a wheelchair, because you can see that. You have to be so careful because you don't know what people have went through, So in a work example, you don't know if one of your coworkers just had their mother put into hospice. You don't know if their child came down sick last night and they didn't get any sleep. You don't know those things, and it's very easy to overreact. And I'm guilty as well. I'm a hypocrite that way, but it's people are going through a lot of things, and it's too easy to point fingers at it. Now you just hope that they can get through some of those things. I try to tell my daughter, would you please argue with me about the stuff that's more important? Don't argue with me about cleaning the kitchen or making your bed. Argue with me about going out with your friends, the important stuff, not the little stuff. And so trying to coach her that way and to pick her battles a little bit. And it's the same way. Don't cry to me about that. Just clean your room, right? Cry to me about whether or not you can go see your friends and the stuff that's more important.
Right. Yeah, because I remember there was one of your interviews where you said that when you were coaching these young kids, and one of them just like dropped down and he said, you know what, I can't do it anymore. And you just looked at him and was like, are you really? Are you sure? And then he's like, okay. So
Yeah.
things like that. Also, I think when you have someone like that in the vicinity, even as a family or as a colleague or as a friend, who is an inspiration in himself, that you we life can throw shit at us all the time, but it's up to us that just get going, right? just
Right.
just get going. That's the only way that you can get through life, to just get going.
Right.
I think that also sets the benchmark for them, that yeah, I think I really need to see my priorities, and maybe I'm actually overreacting in things that don't even deserve my attention. Have people come up to you and uh, tell you that what kind of inspiration you have been for them, like random people?
Yeah, they do. And there's a couple of things that are interesting, that are kind of woven into what you just asked there. They do, and it's humbling. You simply have to say thank you, and so on. But I think, um, I don't know, that it's not attention per se, but those accolades and those comments, I'm glad it motivates them. I'm glad it makes them feel better. And I'm glad if they see something in what I'm doing that gets them going, then that's incredible for them. I'm just doing what I normally do. And so I think that's part of it, is like, they might see me driving my car, something in my mind which is simple and normal life, but if it inspires them, that's great. But understand that's just a regular thing for what I'm doing. But I have had people also tell me that, I was out at my farm and I was about to do something, and I thought of you and I stopped because I didn't want to get hurt either. And they've commented like, oh, I saw you doing this, or I thought about you, so therefore I was going to be safe and I didn't want to do the same thing. When I first meet people, they don't quite know that I can open the door myself, that I can get onto the sidewalk myself, I can go to lunch myself. And I love that they offer to help, and they quickly find out that I don't need the help. But there's a level of anxiety initially that the very simple things that I take for granted, they see as me overcoming. And if it makes them feel motivated, then that's great. I don't think it certainly isn't a goal of mine. Oh, who am I going to motivate today?
Just do what you do in your daily life.
Yeah, right. I kind of have fun with it a little bit. Like you said, one of the kids that, if we use the word can't in practice, that's not good. They have they have some exercise when they say can't. But I'll have a friend of mine that's I don't know over there. Do you have desks that will stand up so you can stand at your workplace? The whole keyboard, the monitor, and everything will stand up, and then you can sit down. And so when my friends stand up to work, I say, "Really, you're going to show off? You're going to do that right in front of me, and I can't do that?" And they just start laughing. We have fun with it, but you have to have a way to bring some levity to the situation as well. And I find that the more that I just call it out and make it known in the room, I think the more people are relaxed with it. And if I make a little joke, then that's fun. And a lot of it is I wonder if they'll laugh, because then I'm going to laugh if they don't laugh. Yeah. And I make fun of them and I say, "Hi, I got you. It's just a joke. No big deal."
Where did you find that strength in? Because a lot of people can get stuck there, and of course, it can be a sensitive issue for a lot of them. But even I watched your TED talk, and I found you are a funny guy, right? I mean, where do you get that strength from to actually laugh it off on your own, which actually relaxes the atmosphere for other people? How do you do that? And I'm sure that a lot of people want to do that, but it's just that for them, they just are not able to let it go. How do you do that?
I had always been a bit of a prankster before my accident. I am one of 4 siblings. I was the sibling that always got in trouble and always made fun of somebody else, always picked on somebody else. And so that came natural for me to have a good time with it. But I met a good friend of mine at the hospital who was also going through the wheelchair, and we turned into little kids. We buzzed around the hospital. We were breaking things, and I'm sure the nurses weren't very happy with us. And we're 39-year-olds, in the hospital, acting like 10-year-olds, racing our wheelchairs and doing whatever. And I think we learned at that point to have some fun with it. But I think some of the other things that I have to be very aware of is I know when adults are looking at me in the wheelchair, I sense that. But when a child looks at me in the wheelchair, it's a totally different look. And they're curious, and they want to know what happened, how's it work. And if an adult were to ask me, "Can I push your shopping cart for you?" I'll say, "No, I've got it." But if I've got a 10-year-old that has the guts to come up and ask, I'll say, "Absolutely, will you help me? That'd be great." And I think just letting them have a positive experience of somebody that is handicapped might really help them out in many other ways. And children come at you very innocently, and if you can have fun with it, one of the first skills we had to learn in a wheelchair is how to do a wheelie, how to pop our front wheels off the ground. Because if I can do that, I can hop over a curb, or I can get over the sidewalk, I can get over a bump. But the kids think it's cool. "Oh, wow, you're balancing on your behind wheels," and their eyes light up, and so we have fun with it. I think if you can get some people to relax through a little bit of humor, and it doesn't have to be because somebody's hurt in any way, I think it can help really just change a relationship really quick.
Do that. Tell me one thing. What do you feel gratitude for the most?
I think just the support everybody's given me. It's nonstop. So today, in fact, is a good example. I mentioned in my talk, I have a group of friends that will ride bicycle when I go do my training. One of them came over last night with his wife, brought me a plate of cookies. We were exchanging a couple other things, and he said, "Hey, I'm going to come back tomorrow. I'm going to fix that door on your building that's off." And I'm like, "Oh, you don't have to." He says, "No, we'll be over." Well, this morning I was gone, and at 9:30 he was over, and I came home at 6. And I'm in a small community. I think we were talking about this before. My daughter's graduating high school class will be 40 kids, 40. not 400, not 4,000, just 40. And it's a public school. We're in rural America. And that has advantages and disadvantages. I get that. But your friends are your friends. You know, the support that I have received since the first hour of things happening for the last 8 or 9 years has been crazy. And it's not just my daughters and my family. It's an extended family. It's the community. And I feel I owe them a lot. And so because of that, how can I have a bad day, right? Why I can't let them down. Much like we said before, there's people counting on me. These people that have invested in me every day, even today. I owe them quite a bit.
What's your ambition now? Like, what is that one thing that you want to do for the world?
Oh my goodness. I want to get through the pandemic and get moving again, right? You know, actually, my daughter doesn't watch my podcast and stuff. I've got one more daughter to get through school. She takes a lot of mental energy for me. I'm trying really hard to make sure she has the best opportunity for herself. And it's a challenge. She challenges me. I'm sure I challenge her. You know, when your kids are 17, 16 years old, they don't want you to be a friend. You know, they want you to back off. And that's difficult. We're trying to get her there. If I could, you know, get her out the door successfully, moving on to college or whatever she wants to do, I think that's a huge focus right now. There are things related to, you know, things like this, right? Podcasts and interviews. I've got some things written that would be kind of interesting to see if I can get them published. If people want to hear the story, then love to talk about it, right? And so I think that's really the main thing, is just continuing to work on family and then just be real sure that everybody understands that I don't have it figured out, and every day I'm still trying to figure other stuff out.
After talking to you, because I've spoken to you before as well, and I know that, you know, it's like you have a lot of, you know, your pain moments have given you a lot of insight. So if I ask you one wisdom nugget or insight that is yours, or you that someone else's, but it's just like registered in your head, what that would be like? What's that one thing that you want to pass on to the world? That, you know.
Yeah, you know, it's such a point in time answer. Because if you asked me this 5 months ago, it would be different. But I think right now, the main thing that I want to convince people of is to not let the pandemic and this time stop you from achieving things. You know, and I'm not saying, I mean, wear a mask, you know, pay attention to the guidance and so on. But we don't have to we don't have to stop our entire lives. And I'm guilty of this, right? And part of talking with you and others is helping me understand that I need to get moving again. So if I'm going to say write a book, I need to do that now. What am I waiting for? If I need to get in shape, I need to work with my daughter, I need to fix something in my home. We don't have to. Our entire lives are not shut down, right? There are parts of them that are absolutely being halted, but it's not everything. And so the advice I would give is, like, right now, don't wake up and look back 6 months from now and look back and realize what you could have gotten done instead of waiting for something. And so my challenge to everybody is just get moving. You know, there's so many things we could be doing, even with pandemic. There's a lot of things we could be doing, and it's time we get moving.
Right. Okay. In the last, I would ask you one thing that, you know, a lot of people think that whatever happened with them is for the best. So I want to ask you that, do you feel at times that you want to go back and rewind all of that and, you know, just cut that part? Or you actually have started to believe that there was a purpose behind whatever happened and you have embraced it and you're walking with it? What would be your answer?
I'm definitely a better person today than I was before. I don't know if it's for a purpose. You know, I think what you make of it becomes that purpose. I think, I don't think it's necessarily that case. I'm a better person today through that. I think, and even, my kids today, we were at a visitation for a family member, kind of a celebration of life thing. And my kid had even made a comment about how I'm better off today than I was. Sure, there are things that are harder for me to do. There's things I cannot do. But a lot of those things have been transitioned into other things I can do. In thinking about if people do get a chance to watch the talk, there's a story in there about the wheelchair racing. And I have actually had thoughts of, specifically in that part of my life, thoughts of saying, wow, if I had been hurt 20 years ago, I'd have been really good at this. And it's wrong to think that way, right? But it's I certainly can you say, do you have regrets? Do you have whatever? I think everybody can say they have regrets that way, but I think I'm a better person. I think I'm better off. And I think there's a lot more to come. I think there's a lot more upside.
Thank you so much, Dean. Thank you
Of course.
really so much, because I'll be very honest. I mean, it was a very humbling experience to talk to you. And I'm sure that even I learned a lot within this conversation to, really prioritize. Like, certain things in your head, that what deserves your energy and what doesn't, where should you engage and where you shouldn't. But conversations like these that really make you pause and reflect and really prioritize again and think about that, what would be the bigger picture like. So
Sure.
I don't know about others, but for me, it has been a very humbling talk. And I really look forward and hope that, a lot of people actually take that strength from you. So thank you so much for being a part of this conversation.
And thank you likewise. I mean, the things that we converse about in a way selfishly challenge me again. And it's nice to have, some of those topics help me get recentered. And so I appreciate the opportunity, but thanks for having me.
I know it takes a lot of courage to, again, I mean, I'm sure that you get invited for these conversations all the time. And I believe that, it takes a lot of courage to keep rewinding it over and over again in your head, I mean, I know it takes a lot. So I can't emphasize enough how much gratitude I have right now for you. Thank you so much.
No problem. Thank you very much. Yep.